did I have fun with this game. Virtua On is one of them unique games that I had to try on the Saturn once when I found out that the game contained giant robots fighting each other in a 3D arena. It's like, I gotta try this. Virtua On Cyber Troopers is a 3D arena fighting game where you get to pilot big ass robots facing other robots in an epic fight to the death. It's like Pacific Rim meet Power Rangers combined, and then you get these giant robot scenarios, and it's like, why didn't I find out about this game sooner? It's like a dream come true. And it turns out the game came out way back in '96. There are 3 modes: arcade, versus and ranking, and it also has a replay and records menu. There are 8 characters to select from the start. Some are heavy hitters and move more slow, while others can move more quicker but do less damage. It's all about your preference. For me, I like the fast moving characters the most, where they can dash and lock onto the target instantly while firing without jumping all the time. And each robot has 3 different attacks from the other characters, and every fighter handles different to the other, what I really enjoy. It made me test out other characters to find the one what I really like. My favourite fighter's got to be Tanjiro. Tojam, well, the one with the sword. The way he moved fast and that sword of his, and how I could use the grenade as a shield to block incoming projectiles, it seems like the perfect robot for me. And I like the way when I chose my fighter it plays this animation where it takes off to fight. The controls took me a bit of time to get used to, where the X button or the Z button is to jump, and the B button is for dashing while in the direction on the D-pad that you are pressing. Then there's the 3 main attacks, and some weapons do take time to recharge as it indicated with these 3 bars on the screen. And the L and R button is to change camera angle to left and right, and it does feel a bit complicated to me at first, but after a short while I found that the controls do become simple, although they do take a bit of time to master. The controls seem to be about 95% of the time responsive and 5% of the time where it doesn't seem to respond to the controller. And in a game like this with the fast gameplay, that does get you killed, as it did with me on multiple occasions, especially on that last boss fight. I thought that this might be down to my controller, although this happened even when I changed the controller. So I thought that maybe this is my version of the game, or my Saturn, or it's a common problem on this game. I would like to know if anyone else experienced this as well. I mainly noticed this as I was dashing all the time. Sometimes it failed to do it sometimes. That it just didn't register the dashing button. Although this game did make my thumb ache on the controller where I was using the dashing characters the most, I had to stop and take breaks because it killed my thumb, and I was like, oh! I heard that this game is better with the arcade stick controller in mind, but the controller arcade stick only came out in Japan, yet the game manual includes the arcade stick controller, so it's like, were they thinking about bringing it out over here? So that makes me think that the PAL version of this game is compatible with the arcade stick controller, and if you can get hold of it, it's probably the best way that you can play this game. Yet I can't say that for sure, because where I don't own one and it costs a bit to get hold of one, so unfortunately I can't really say much on this subject. There are different type of strategies to figure out on each fighter, where they all have their different type of weapons to be wary of, and I like the way how it points this out in the load screen where it told me on what they had. I think the hardest robot to defeat besides from the last boss fight is the pink or blue one with that heart weapon. It's no joke, that does mega damage, especially with this robot. It has like a damage break where it just turns gold and gets more powerful, then it does that, and it just kept on annihilating me, this robot. It took me a while to get past it. Am I reading this right? This robot's got killer drugs? Can't like out of Austin Powers. The game gives you a rank after the first 5 fighters, then it's on to the moon base or face the secret fighter that appears up now and again. Except I don't know what causes the secret fighter to appear. I think that this robot appears if you lost a round on the first 5 fighters, or you took too long to defeat all 5 mechs. Either way, I'm not 100% sure on that.
Secret base. Get ready.
could switch characters when you die and continue, and I thought that was a good idea, and I relish that I've got infinite continues to use in this game. And the continue screen is a bit brutal where you see your robot being repaired on the screen. It kind of reminds me of DK's one game over screen. The last boss fight I found difficult. It's like fighting Joule on Virtual Fighter. Sometimes I could defeat it with ease and straight off on the first round, and other times it just slaughtered me. I found it one of them boss fights. There is a pattern to this fight, just that I found that it doesn't always work, where it can change just a little just to throw me off the pattern. You can change the difficulty in the option menu, however the AI can be brutal on the hardest setting where you take more damage. You can choose to have the timer on or off. With me, I prefer the timer to be off, and you can have up to about 5 rounds. Nevertheless, I thought that 2 rounds was the spot on number. The only thing that let this game down in my opinion is that it should have had 2 or 4 mechs to unlock. There's only one what I know of, and that's the Juggernaut, and I think that's locked behind a cheat code, or I just completely missed on how you unlock it. I just wish that there were more fighters that I could unlock, or different skins to them like they did in Virtual Fighter. Just press down on the D-pad, or is it up, and it shows you an alternative look to them. Here the second player or the AI gets the alternative look, or it's hidden behind a controller code, what I've seen off the net. However, I could not seem to do this. It just didn't work for me, this code, so I couldn't really unlock any alternative look. I heard that Tanji can become gold or something like that. It just didn't work for me though. The 3D arena level design is well detailed on the Saturn, and each area looks and feels different from each other and works well with some of the objects that it has in there where you can use them as cover. And I can't forget that I laughed a bit when I saw this person going flying as you take off with your robot in space. The graphics look impressive on the Sega Saturn, especially where this is a port of an arcade version. I think they've done an awesome job here with the Saturn version, where the Saturn is not as powerful as the arcade version. I think that looks beautiful still. I think the soundtrack is brilliant and it gets you pumped for the fight and feels right with the style of the game. More along the game is it's around about 15 to 40 minutes long, what is average for an arcade fighter of its time. And the game does keep track of your time, so you know when you beat your own score, and in a game like this I found it exhilarating when I did beat my own score. So in the end I like playing Virtua on Cyber Troopers. I found it a unique game of its time, and I wish that I had the arcade controllers to test out on, where I heard that it does enhance the gameplay. So have you played it? What do you think of it? Leave it in the comments below. Until next game, I'm off.